Hi, everybody. Welcome. We are so excited for our next 7-day hormonal health reset. My name is Lena, and my co-pilot here tonight, Jenna. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Jenna Rammel, a mom of 4, needing to take my vitamins. I'm so excited about this because I just had my 4th baby 6 months ago, so I just need a deeper level of self-care. Lena was here the other day, and I said, I haven't been taking my vitamins, and she's like, that means you haven't been taking care of yourself. And I hadn't thought about the fact that taking my supplements, taking my vitamins was this deeper level of self-care. It feels like just something to do with our health. But now that I've been seeing it as something to take care of myself, I've been really good about taking them. And I've been feeling so much better that I'm just so excited for everyone to experience this along with us.
Thank you. That's perfect. Yeah, I was there in her living room with her, giving her a little pep talk, and it didn't take much because she knew very quickly that that was a place in her life where she could probably make a huge impact. So I am a holistic nutritionist and I work from home. I'm a mama of 4. And instead of 2 boys and 2 girls like Jenna, I got 4 rowdy, cute little guys at home, and they're so fun, 8 and under. And they have just been, I think, as we can all say, especially if you're a mom, that kids are the ones that really teach us everything. And our children are the reason why we even got down the path of nutrition and health and natural living and trying to think outside the box. Because when your kid has a problem, doesn't matter what it is, doesn't matter the level of difficulty, as a parent, you want to be the one to help them and to make their life easier. And so they were the catalyst for so much change that had to happen in our family that now it's just a way of life, and sort of became this business later on when I realized how much of a passion I have for helping other women in the same spot. Whether you're prepartum, postpartum, antepartum, doesn't matter where you are in the whole spectrum of femininity and womanhood, that we all need each other. And sometimes you just need that life vest, that raft to keep you afloat, that buoy that's going to buoy you up and remind you that we need to carve time out of our day and out of our lives to better ourselves and to keep ourselves healthy. And so that's what this 7-day hormonal health reset is meant to be. It's not meant to be a week of the most, amazing changes you've ever seen in your health, because healing takes time. But what you will see and what you will notice is these small and simple shifts that you will make are going to have a really big impact over time. And what I hope that you get out of it is ideas and techniques and instruction that can really empower you to know exactly what to do for yourself, especially when time gets hard. Because right now you're taking a pause and you are in a space where you're making time, but you're not always going to have this kind of time. You're not always going to have a week to dedicate to your health. So when the going gets tough, when life hits hard and it's real, that you have these skills and they're right there in your back pocket and you know exactly how to use them. So let's get right into it. Now I want to make sure my little slide's going to work. Didn't shift. Uh-oh. No. Oh, did it change? Perfect. Okay. So let's talk about what the heck hormones even are. And we're going to use the chat a couple of times tonight, so make sure you have that handy. But hormones are really this regulatory substance that occurs in the body. And what it does is it transmits messages and instructions all throughout our entire system, through the tissues in our body, through our blood. We have over 50 different types of hormones right now floating all around our bodies. Okay, they produce different instructions and messages that tell our body to do different things. Sometimes it's an action and sometimes it's a reaction, right? So we need to really be mindful of that hormones make up so much of what we do. And oftentimes we just put it on the shelf and say, well, I'm really not going to worry about myself or about my health because I can take care of that later. But what you don't understand is that it affects every single part of your body, not just how you feel and your mood and your PMS, right? It's so much bigger than that. It's this massive conversation. It's our hormones affecting our immune system, our bone health, our brain health, our skin, right? Our skin is a huge part of our hormone regulation. And so I hope tonight, as you go through this workshop, that you start to see and hear and understand that there are things that you can identify in your life that are triggers for you that can be affecting your hormones every single day. And that I hope, and my intention and our intention is that by the end, you'll have at least 5 things that you can take away so that you know how to change those behaviors, how to fix those imbalances. And that's really the exciting thing about all of this. So getting into more about what these hormones do. We know we're supposed to have estrogen. We know we're supposed to have progesterone. We know we're supposed to have testosterone, but what do all of those things do? Okay, so estrogen is the one that brings the body to a place of femininity. That's what gives us a little bit of extra weight around our curves in our hip section, right? It's what gives us this feminine body, right? It makes it so that we have better uterine health, that we have more regulated periods, regulated cycles. Progesterone is what helps us to stay pregnant when we get pregnant. Testosterone is what helps us to have libido, to want to be sexual, right? Testosterone also helps to boost your energy and give you more muscle mass in your body. But any too much of any of these specific hormones is going to throw them off. So we're going to talk about what to look for, but these are some of the questions that get asked most often that slip into my DMs. So things like, how do I stop feeling tired all the time? So as I go over these questions, try to identify, do any of these relate to you? What can I do to end those 2 painful weeks during my cycle and before my cycle? What should I be eating to not be so bloated or stop fluid retention or have better digestion? How can I lose some stubborn body fat that's hanging out without starving myself? How do I get rid of hormonal migraines, mood swings, cramps? And what can I do to help my sugar cravings, right? Let's just like a hands up on that one. That's one that I have definitely struggled with over the years. How can I get rid of acne or improve my skin? What can I do to reduce my stress, anxiety, and boost my energy, help me focus? How can I live healthy on a busy schedule? These are all really amazing questions that I hope we get to answer tonight. Okay. Like so many, I have tried nearly everything to end my struggles with stress, hormonal imbalance, weight gain, fatigue, all of these things. But it took me getting to a place where I felt like I hit a rock bottom. And sometimes when you're at the bottom, you start to realize the only place to go from there is up. And so it took me getting to that spot of feeling like I didn't want to go out of bed, where my bed felt like the coziest place and the only place, the safest place for me. And so I was just lost in this feeling and this overwhelm that was weighing me down. And I couldn't figure out how to get out of it. And it was a multitude of things. There was stuff going on in my family that was out of my control that I felt helpless with. There were issues with fertility, right? There were so many problems within my marriage because I felt lost and couldn't figure out how to be happy within my own self. And so we don't always talk about these things, but I just want to relay this to you that if you feel like you're at a place where you just need help, you just need someone to reach out their hand and bring you some knowledge and wisdom, just know that I've been there and I've been in a spot that feels helpless and feels overwhelming. So here's the list, okay? This is the spot where I want you to really read every single one of these and figure out how many of these apply specifically to you. Okay, so with your little journal that I sent you and the pen, you can take a minute and just tally mark down how many of these apply to you and then throw it in the chat. I'm going to pull up the chat. I'll give you a minute to look through those. Sorry, I had to minimize it so I could see the chat. So how many of these symptoms of hormonal imbalance apply to you specifically? A roundabout number, do you think? $21. Thank you for sharing, Kira. Jenna says 20. Meredith, 17. Lupe, 5 to 10. Alexis, 7. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, so if more people share, I'm sorry I won't see those. I'm going to go back to full screen. If it will let me. Oh, there we go. So, whoops, getting ahead of the slides. Whoop, there we are. Okay, so looking at this list and counting all of those up, it's a little bit of a check, right? It's like a self-analysis, a real moment of reflection, and identifying what of these things really applies to you is a good starting point so that you know now moving forward what it is that you have to tackle. And so as we go through these next slides, we know that the only way to resolve any of these problems is to get down to the root cause. And before we even talk about the 3 biggest triggers, I want to just identify with you that sometimes we, instead of addressing the root cause, it's so much easier for us to find something from over the counter or from a commercial, from an Instagram ad that is going to erase all of our problems. It's so much easier for us to wake up in the morning, go get a cup of coffee, and not even identify the fact that we need caffeine to feel energy, right? And if you've heard me say this before, I'll just apologize now, but I can't stop saying it. I feel like if you are driving a car and the check engine light comes on, okay, it's so easy for us to think, oh, I need to take my car into the shop because the check engine light's on. You don't stick a Band-Aid over the top of the blinking light in your car so that you don't see it. That doesn't go away, but we do that with our bodies all the time. We put a Band-Aid over it. We drink the caffeine when we're tired. We get extra concealer under our eyes when we get little black bags under our eyes, right? Whatever it is that you are reaching for in your life, if there's a commercial for it, you know that they are capitalizing on your pain. And I hate to be so blunt about that, and I'm not here to fearmonger. I just want to help you become more aware of some of the choices you're making, that if there is a commercial on TV and you are buying that product, they're capitalizing on your pain because they're not there to serve the root cause. They are there to help you get an immediate response. We want that in our society. We have all of these instant gratification things in our lives that make it so easy for us to live nowadays. But our bodies are not modern. Our bodies have lived forever and ever. And so they're not catching up with the times. They're not just going to heal overnight. It takes time to really serve the body at the root cause. And so by identifying the cause, I hope that you're going to be able to then find these tools to be really effective because you're serving that part of the body that's really triggering these problems. So identifying these 3 big triggers doesn't mean that you're only going to fit into one of them. Okay, so as I talk about estrogen dominance and high insulin and cortisol, and we speak about the things that are the biggest problems that women face It doesn't mean that you're going to pigeonhole yourself and say, I'm one of these things, so I'm going to do these things. You may feel that you find yourself associating with all three of them. And if that's the case, that's totally fine. My goal for you is to be able to identify with some of them, maybe one, maybe two, maybe three, so that you can start to see the areas that you can make really big improvements in. So let's talk about these three before we go into the 5 resolutions. So with estrogen dominance, okay, these are people, and by the way, people always get really thrown off by me bringing up weight, and it's not ever about weight for me. All of my nutrition clients, when they come to me, it's not, hey, how can I lose 10 pounds? It's how can I feel well? Because I don't want to serve a clientele that's just coming to me for weight loss. I would rather serve someone who's really trying to get healthy. And that is oftentimes through food, right? And so as we talk about these different dominances of different hormones, it does bring up weight and body shape, but that's only to give you an identification a little bit more for you to see if these are your issues. It doesn't mean that that's our main focus, okay? So someone who has high estrogen is typically someone that has more weight in their upper legs, butt, and hip area, more of like a pear shape, okay? So if you identify with that, then you probably have a higher estrogen and a lower progesterone level. Symptoms of someone that has high estrogen level and high estrogen dominance is premenstrual syndrome. So someone that has really severe PMS. I was out with friends last night and a girlfriend of mine said, you know, I just suffer from the worst PMS. And my heart just went out to her because here she is thinking that she has to live that way, that she's just a person that wakes up and feels like, oh, I have PMS. Or maybe you're a person that wakes up every day and you're like, I just always have a migraine. When you don't have to be a person that fill in the blank when you wake up, that you can be free of these things if you just identify those root causes and get down to the symptoms and figure out how to serve your body at that cellular level. So other symptoms of having high estrogen dominance are things like painful breasts, mood swings, depressive feelings, tension like anxiety, confusion, being less focused, a person that has more hormonal migraine, so a migraine that comes right around your cycle, more water retention in your ankles and belly, and weight gain throughout your midsection and your hips, heavier, painful, or irregular menstrual cycles. You have issues getting pregnant, you're tired a lot, and you have light or irregular sleep. Sleep is a huge thing we'll talk about in just a little bit. So consequences of long-term estrogen dominance. If we don't serve the problem, these are some things that could eventually happen. That you could get endometriosis, fibroids, be less stress resilient, which means you are kind of like, have you ever met someone that's a little zoned out? They've had so much stress and so much trauma in their lives that they're not making connections. Someone with hormone-related cancers oftentimes has estrogen dominance, or someone with metabolic syndrome. And that just means that they're almost to the point of obesity because their metabolic system isn't working anymore because they have so much estrogen. Okay, so the next one is cortisol. Now, this is one that I actually love to talk about. I feel like every single one of us to some degree suffers with a level of stress. If you're a woman, I feel like every single one of us can really relate to this. So high cortisol is someone who has more weight under their belly button, so more of like the love handles shape. And symptoms of high cortisol is that you wake up feeling tired. So if you go to bed stressed, you're waking up tired. If you go to bed stressed, you're waking up anxious, right? People with stress have emotionally, like they're spent, they're just drained. They can't rid themselves of stubborn fat. They have really bad digestive issues. They get headaches, migraines, they lose hair. They have like maybe even thinning hair after pregnancy more so than most women. They're more irritable, low libido, so low sex drive, and they crave a lot of sugar. So the thing about stress is that it's really hard to not go to that place, to not be anxious or overwhelmed. But there's a part of the brain over here called the amygdala, and that's the part of the brain that releases that hormone we call cortisol. And that cortisol spike can happen from something really small. It can be something as small as someone knocking on your door when you're in the middle of dinner, right? Or it could be something like your child running into your room in the middle of the night while you're asleep and you wake up really startled, those onset moments of cortisol increase can take up to 12 hours to come back down to regulation and homeostasis. And why that's a problem is because when you're in a cortisol spike, that's when your body stores fat. Okay, so think about ancestrally. I used to be a history teacher, so I love talking about like the Neolithic period. So I'll just briefly go there. So in regards to hormone health, why that's important is if you think about in the Neanderthals having to migrate from one place to another, their body was always in a state of cortisol spike, right? Like they're running around and they're, trying to get away from invaders and people maybe try to steal their fire, because that was like a big thing back then. So what happens is when the body is in a state of stress and these people were running from one place to another, they were unable to have children. And so their little communities would just die off. And they were unable to have kids because their body's in a state of stress. So they have hormonal irregulation. But the other thing about that that's so interesting is that if you, oh my gosh, did you just hear that? Sorry. My kids are screaming outside the door. Okay, I forgot what I was talking about now. Anyway, so cortisol issues can be really, really detrimental to our fat storing. So our fat burning hormone is called leptin, and we want more of that. But the fat storing hormone, cortisol, essentially, it just happens because the body wants to store fat. It doesn't know if it's going to eat. It's worried about the next plate of dinner it's going to have. And so it's running from place to place in a state of stress, and so it stores the fat in order to use it later because it doesn't know when its next meal is going to come. So that's kind of looking at things ancestrally, but now relating it to today, if you are in a state of cortisol spikes over and over again, then you're going to have adrenal burnout. You're going to be exhausted. You're going to have really high blood pressure from all that tension. You're going to have irritable bowel and digestive issues, low immune function. You get sick all the time. This one's really interesting. The shrinking prefrontal cortex, that happens to a lot of women with chronic stress. So someone maybe in your life that you know who has had a traumatic experience and maybe it just seems like life has been extra hard on them, that you'll notice that they, I don't want to say like they're not as smart because that's not the right way of saying it, but they're like, their body and their mind doesn't make that connection, and so they seem a lot less focused. So the shrinking of the prefrontal cortex means like less memory, like they're not remembering things from their childhood. They have all these moments of life that they've forgotten because they've had stressful days that have continued into weeks and continued to months and years. And so that long-term chronic stress can really play a role in our brain function and how we learn and retain memory. We have a loss of synaptic connections, so the neurons in your brain aren't firing like they should. Cardiovascular disease, that's the highest cause or the leading cause of death in women in the US is heart disease. So why is that so? I mean, just make that connection. The highest cause of death in women in the US is heart disease because we are so stressed, right? We're more stressed than any other country as women because we take on the world. We have the whole weight of the world on our shoulders. Diabetes, there were 300,000 people last year diagnosed with diabetes in the US. And so much of that has to do with stress and our cortisol. So people with high cortisol also are not able to burn fat as much because they restore it. They have accelerated aging. So menopausal symptoms come on a lot younger for women who are more stressed. Mental distress, so they're just less able to manage stressful environments when you have cortisol for long periods of time. And they're more led to be depressed and long-term Alzheimer's disease. Okay, last one. I know this is like the most depressing topic of all time, but I just want to be real with you so that you know that when you have these issues over long periods of time, that it really is playing a huge role on your body and a huge toll on your health and how you feel. So high insulin, this is the sugar hormone. This is the one that if you have more weight gain through your shoulders, between your shoulder blades, love handles area, that just means that you're someone that has high insulin. And insulin is the spike hormone that we get when we eat sugar. Okay, so eating sugar leads to sugar cravings. It's like the sugar dragon. It just, once you eat it and you have this addiction to it within your digestive tract, all of that bacteria that's down there ends up just craving more sugar. That's all it wants, is more and more and more. So you have a hard time skipping a meal. You're hungry more often if you have high insulin. You get more bloated. You have low energy, lots of weight gain, hair loss, low sex drives, lots of skin issues. People with high insulin are more prone to acne and skin tags. And again, they're always hungry. Consequences of high insulin over long periods of time is sugar is, again, a fat storing hormone. So your pancreas gets exhausted from having to filter out all of those toxins within all the crap that we're eating in regards to sugar. Digestive issues, definitely bad gut flora when we are eating too much sugar and too little enzymes. Insulin resistance, diabetes, and low metabolism. Okay, now that all the sad stuff is out of the way, did you kind of identify which one of those three, or which two, or all three that you might be a part of? Because as we're going now into wanting balance in our lives, I want you to be able to see which one of these things can really benefit you specifically. So desiring balance can look different for everyone. There is no true way to have like the most perfect plan. I can't, design something specific for every single one of you, but what I can do is give you the best tips for what works for most people. So if you have estrogen dominance, most likely it's coming from things within your environment. They could be endocrine disruptors. Endocrine disruptors are things varying from the whole gamut. It could be extra pesticides left within your produce that aren't being washed out. It could be something as simple as a plug-in or a candle in your home. Or maybe you're really someone that loves aerosol hairspray or perfume, and you have all these little things in your environment that are affecting your pituitary gland and the production of hormones. Or maybe they're affecting your ovary production of the estrogen in your body. Or if you have high testosterone, maybe they're affecting your muscle mass. Every single part of estrogen dominance has to do with the fact that you are not adhering to the things in your environment. You're just kind of living the day-to-day and, basically going through life not really thinking about the products that you're using. And I think the first thing in getting rid of or reducing your toxic load is identifying some of those things that are really simple to get rid of. It could be dryer sheets. That's like super simple. They're very toxic, and yet we put them on our clothes all the time. We stick them in the dryer and we put them right on our body, and our body is now touching those, thousands of toxic ingredients that are within there. And your skin is your biggest organ. So your skin is now touching all those toxins and then metabolizing it through your liver, and it becomes a part of you. And we just think, oh, if it's sold at Target or if it's sold at Costco, then it must be good for us. But we have to understand that that's just not true, that there are things in our environment that are really harmful to us. And the standards of the industry are eventually going to catch up with the standards of health that we have for our body and what our body can and cannot take. But simply eliminating some of those real big triggers in our environment can affect our estrogen dominance. High cortisol, that's another big one. If you have chronic stress and it lowers your progesterone. Insulin problems, again, someone that just has to have sugar all the time, and it really does clog up your liver. And so we'll talk about ways to help with that in just a minute. Okay, so what are your stressors? For time's sake, I'm not going to have us type this in the chat, but I do want to have this as a little homework assignment for us to talk about on our call tomorrow. So I want you to write down, you specifically, what are stressors in your life that could be contributing to your health? It could be anything. It could be environmental stressors, it could be physical stressors, it could be food stressors, it could be family, anything in your environment or life that could be contributing to your health. So one of the things that I talk about in my workshops in person is that these are the big overarching stressors: family, work, money, childcare, and health, right? Our health is so important. But it's actually so much more than that, because family, work, money, childcare, and health can lead to all of these things, which can lead to fat storing hormones in the body. And so just looking at this list here and identifying, are you doing any of these things? Do you get enough sleep? Do you have digestive unrest? Do you have heart hunger? Are you someone that when you feel sad, you go straight to the pantry and have to eat something? Do you have a high toxic level of ingredients in your home? Are you consuming foods that you know make you bloated and are inflammatory on your system? Are you over-exercising? That's a big one, because over-exercising is super inflammatory and causes tons of hormonal imbalances. Or are you starving yourself because you want to lose weight after having a baby and you stop nursing now and you're like, why isn't the weight falling off of me? And it's not that, it's not any of that, right? It's getting down to those root causes and figuring out, how can I serve my body for what my specific needs are? Okay, the domino effect is this. If you have high cortisol, it will lead to high insulin, right? When you're stressed, what do? Eat sugar. When you eat sugar, it causes inflammation. This is the domino effect here. When you do that, it leads to high testosterone, which leads to estrogen dominance, which leads to stress. So it's just this whole cycle of the hamster wheel that's so hard to get off of. So the only way to lower our estrogen, insulin, and cortisol is by removing these triggers all the way down at the cellular level. We have to switch on our fat burning hormones and switch off our fat storing hormones. So how do we do that? Step one, Miss Jenna Rammel.
Hi. Yes. Thank you. You're doing awesome. Okay, so we are going to talk just a little bit about working on your stress resilience. This is something I'm actually really good at, because I do know that I have high levels of cortisol because I'm running a business. I have a lot of kids. I am nursing. I am up in the middle of the night. So I am off my game, right? So I have to do a lot to even kind of get to an even level of playing field, you know? And so every single day. And so I love these little ideas of practicing mindfulness daily and learn to mind your mind. So this is the thing about it, is I think that sometimes we look at and we hear about online or whatever, we hear about meditation, and we're thinking, okay, I have to go to an ashram in the mountains and I have to meditate for an hour, and none of that. I literally do, no more than 10 minutes of meditating every single day. It really honestly looks about more like 5 minutes, and I can't tell you what the difference it makes in my life. And that practice really began for me by using the Headspace app, which is something that I really recommend people trying, because it's a beginner's guide, and it actually will guide you to be more advanced in meditating and being still. And so if that's something that you want to seek out, I'd really recommend that. And for some, women, we are like multitaskers, so that might look like having a bath and meditating in the bath, if that's something that works for you. But I think the practice of being still, deciding what it is you're being intentional about, why you're doing this hormonal reset, taking that time for yourself helps to lower the stress and then lower these symptoms that Lena has been talking about as we work to balance our hormones. Are there any other mindfulness practices beyond meditation, Lena, that you feel like are helpful for your clients?
I think just being really intentional about how you start your morning. So this is the thing that has changed the game for me the last 5 years, is making it like a religion that when I get in the morning, it's my time, and that it's not my kids that get me up. It's not my phone. I don't go straight to my emails or my text messages, right? That I get up in the morning and I take at least 5 minutes for myself. Like you said, it can be something so small. And that little moment and that quiet time where it's just me, and I can go in my bathroom, I can close the door, my husband can feed them breakfast, whatever your circumstance is, you can find the time, even if it's not right first thing in the morning, if that's difficult for you in your situation. Just finding 5 or 10 minutes in your day, that's all you, that's carved out just for you. That has made the biggest difference for me, and I think in the people within my community, is just knowing that there is this space of time that no one else gets to intervene, that I'm not serving anyone. Because people will say, oh yeah, my self-care is I love to do laundry. I'm like, no.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, it's not about folding clothes. I know that's like calming for some people, but it's about just being quiet, listening in, and really being intentional. That word is so powerful, but it's true. Just kind of listening to your heartbeat and having it match your day, getting
Yeah.
ahead of yourself. And if you're one of those people that first thing in the morning, you start thinking about your day and all of those things are in your head, that's going to cause a spike in your cortisol. You're going to feel stress first thing. But if you sit down and you're quiet and you have your mind match your heart, then you're going to be able to tackle those things because you can walk through them in your mind in a way that visualizes the streamlining of it all. And it doesn't mean it's going to happen exactly perfect like that, but at least when things go off balance and when things don't go exactly as planned, you'll have more stress resilience getting through those scenarios than you would had you not had those intentional moments in the morning.
Yeah, and I think morning is huge. I think that's something that's a habit for a lot of people is to instantly get on the phone. And what happens when we scroll and not only the light and the imagery, and it's just all so much sensory overload, is that energy exists. So that person's energy then gets into your field. And then suddenly you, whether you like it or not, subconsciously are being pulled in 1,000 different directions. And you're seeing that this person's doing that and this person's doing that. And so those things become of the utmost importance to you when if you hadn't done that, that wouldn't have necessarily even been on your radar. So then that again spikes your cortisol. So the thing I can't recommend enough of is don't get on your phone. Wake up in the morning, roll right out of bed, and just sit in the stillness, whether that's stretching or yoga or sitting completely still with your own thoughts and expressing affirmations, expressing gratitude, whatever that looks like for you, finding a mindfulness practice that elevates your life will be something that you will never regret taking the time to create for yourself.
Mm-hmm. Totally. A friend of ours is doing like a free coaching for the month of March. And every Tuesday, she's going to be talking about how to invest in your energy economy, which is kind of fun. I like that verbiage. And so I'm going to link to her in our email today with this recording so that if you're interested and you just want to have something positive to listen to in the morning, that you could do that. You could have some like a podcast on or this coaching program just to kind of get you in the right frame of mind and remember that you are investing in this economic quality. This energy of yours is really of value and we don't recognize the value. And so we put it on the back burner and then everything about our day goes awry because we haven't put ourselves first. I mean, there's a reason they tell us to put our mask on first in the airplane, right?
Yeah, but we hear that all the time, but would we actually do it? You know, when push comes to shove and the oxygen masks come down, would you actually do that? Would you put yours on first before your children's or your loved ones? So that's a practice of recognizing that we are of value in that way.
Totally. Thank you. Okay, so we talked a little bit about physical stressors, and you're going to write some of these down and we'll talk about them more tomorrow. But what I want you to think about right now is specifically what could you be doing that could be preventing you from progressing within this 7-day hormonal health reset. So these may seem kind of extreme, but we're only doing it for 7 days. You can do anything for 7 days, okay? So your form of exercise this week may look like taking a 15-minute walk with your child to the park. Or it may be, if you're a person that already likes to run, it may be a 15-minute run or a 15-minute ride on a bike or something like that. But we're not going to be pushing ourselves. We're not going to be over-exercising and trying to overexert our energy because, again, over-exercising depletes the energy, produces a lot of inflammatory response in the body, which throws off your hormonal balance, okay? Same thing with being aware of your eating habits. The reason why I've given you breakfast, lunch, and dinner menus or recipes is because I want you to be eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And snacks, okay? Snacks are important. And I've given you some ideas for snacks, but I mean, again, you don't need to have those exact things if they're not in season right where you live, or they weren't at your grocery store or something like that. That's totally fine. But what you do need to understand is that eating 3 times a day is going to help regulate your hormones. When you're in the starvation mode, your body sends out from the pituitary gland down all the way to your digestive tract this hormone that says, store all the fat because I'm starving. So then if you fasted before, you know that that hunger stops after a while because your body has this reserve. Same thing if you overeat, okay? If you overeat, your body has this huge spike in hormones and it sends your blood sugar levels through the roof. And that high insulin, it's crazy wild. But if you can eat 3 times a day, healthy, nutrient-dense meals, your body will have a chance to really start to regulate itself hormonally. The next one is sleep. Sleep is huge. Like capitalize, bold, italicize, huge, underline, okay? You have to get at least 7 hours of sleep every single night this week. And we're gonna have accountability because we're having our Q&A calls every morning. So I wanna hear on these calls who's getting those 7 hours. At least 8 is ideal, but 7 is a dream, okay? We wanna at least have 7. And the reason sleep is so important is because that's the restorative state of our body. That's when our body can actually take a break from all those things coming in at all times into your neurons and your brain and sending that electricity out so that your body's always in this work mode. When your eyes are closed and your body is resting, it now has a chance to really restore itself, purify, and identify all those toxins, and your liver just cleanses out and detoxes everything while you're sleeping. That's why when you wake up in the morning, your first pee-pee is a little bit more yellow than at other times of the day, because it's really been able to clean out all those villi within your digestive tract, and everything is so much better the next day because of it. So other things that we're going to avoid are these triggers. Some of these inflammatory foods, and I'm not saying they're inflammatory for everyone, but as a broad stroke for everyone, I want to see that you avoid dairy, sugar, eggs, meat, corn, coffee, alcohol, caffeine, and grains. And now you're probably thinking, what the heck am I going to eat? Just open up the recipes that I sent you. I've been giving you little tidbits throughout last week of when to head to the grocery store so you're not hungry and searching for things to eat last minute. So hopefully you've been able to get to the grocery store and you have everything stocked in your fridge and ready to go so that you can start off the week on the right foot. I know Lupe already at the beginning of the call said she was making stuff from the recipes already today. So that just makes me so happy that you're putting these good tools to good use. So avoiding these inflammatory foods is really going to help us to identify and see where some of those triggers are. And then as you add them back in at the end of the week, we'll talk about that later, you can do that slowly to see if any of these are really throwing off your fatigue or cravings or anything like that. Okay, removing hormone disruptors. We talked about that for a split second, but let me just kind of say one more thing about that. If you have anything really immediate in your environment that you can begin to eliminate, I would try to do that. I'm not saying go through your whole house and throw everything away today, because that's asking a lot of you. But what you could do is you could start to maybe get rid of those candles. You don't need the candles. They are putting carcinogens into the air. If you're someone that has respiratory issues, it's just going to exacerbate those. Lots and lots of hormone disruptors within candles or artificial fragrances, things like plugins, potpourri, again, dryer sheets, super easy. And then the other one that I really want you to incorporate this week is making sure that you thoroughly wash your produce. Even organic food has pesticides. So every single thing that you are going to consume, make sure you wash it really good before you eat it. Okay, step 3, we're eating on purpose. All of the recipes I've given you are very nutrient dense. They have things like omega-3s, which are really good for your brain health, heart health, liver. Alliums, that's your garlic, your onions, leeks, things like that. Crucifers, those are things like broccoli or cauliflower. Leafy greens, lots of leafy greens. We want kale or butterhead lettuce. If you like spinach, I'm a big spinach eater, love it so much. Complex slow carbs, those are things like beans, legumes. It could be cannellini beans, even sweet potatoes is a slow complex carb. A banana is a slow complex carb. Power spices, things like cilantro, basil, oregano, fiber-rich foods. Anything that has fiber is going to be really good for you this week. I love quinoa, so there's a lot of quinoa in my cookbook. Clean protein. Protein is in everything. People think that protein is just meat, but it's not. Protein is even in watermelon, mushrooms. What is this? I have this beautiful picture that that's on my website. The avocado has protein. Apples have protein. Sweet potato, everything has protein. Okay, but it could be something even like almond butter if you want a little bit more of a filling type protein. The reason why protein seems more filling is because of the fat quality within the protein, and that's what keeps you more full. Essential amino acids. So all of these things are nutrient dense, and they're in the recipes that I sent you. Okay, step 4, we're going to support our elimination pathways. This is where we're getting into the supplements. So I'll touch on these for the next few minutes, but as I do, you can get them out, or if you already have them near you. Basically, what we're doing with the probiotic and the enzymes is supporting our elimination pathways. Our liver takes on so much every single day. It's just this organ in our body that filters out all the things that we consume, good or bad. And if it's working really well, it's able to flush out toxins even better. But if it's not working really well, then it starts to get drudgy and sludgy and slow and isn't able to process the toxins quite as well. And how you know if your liver is working well or not is if you have extra weight in the midsection, or if you have skin irritations. Those are usually the 2 biggest signs that your liver isn't working as well. And so ways to help flush out these toxins are things like the probiotic. And I'm going to be sending you just this little snippet, this little graphic today with this recording that'll show you how to start taking the supplements tomorrow. Specifically talking about the probiotic, that one is one that we take right before bedtime. So not tonight, but tomorrow night. You will take the probiotic for the first time at the end of the day tomorrow. And the probiotic is the one that I sent you in a round little case, and it's double encapsulated. Here, I'll pull out mine so you can see what it looks like. Make sure you're taking the right one. So it looks like that. Can you see the double encapsulation? The green pill on the inside has a UV protection because probiotics are very vulnerable to light, temperature, sound, and smell, believe it or not. Because they're so vulnerable and they're these living microorganisms, they have to be protected by an outside layer called prebiotics. And those prebiotics are basically chlorophyll. That fiber is meant to feed the probiotics once they repopulate the gut. So once it gets down into your hind gut, and it's protected through the stomach acid and gets down to the place where it really needs to repopulate, it's able to proliferate because that fiber is down there feeding it. So it's just multiplying and replenishing over and over again. And it works really well once you're laying down flat. So that's why we take it right before bed, okay? And then something else to really help with our toxins is our enzymes. And the metabolic enzymes that I sent you, they're digestive enzymes. So the metabolic enzymes and digestive enzymes are these right here. The 10 food groups that you're going to be consuming, anything that you eat actually will be covered in all of these enzymes through doTERRA's Terrazyme. And they work so well at helping to digest the food. They help also so that the body can absorb the nutrients from the food that you're eating. So you're not just passing them through the liver and the stomach and the colon and then, getting rid of them, but that you're actually using them as energy and stamina and for vitality, and they're fueling your body with all the vitamins that you need, right, within those foods. And so if you're not getting the enzymes in your diet every day, what tends to happen is that we have a lot of bloating after we eat because the body, again, slows down to metabolize. As you age, your body's metabolic digestive enzyme quality and content really, really minimizes, and you're not able to digest very well. So what happens is you get that bloating, and then you end up having these empty calories because your body's not able to absorb the nutrients. So taking a digestive enzyme just supports the body through the digestive process. And then what's also really great about this is it helps to regulate your hormone production, because the digestive tract is closely associated with your estrogen production. So all of the hormone imbalances that occur from digestive unrest can then be supported through having this digestion that's really smooth and easy on your system. So the Terrazyme, I sent you quite a few of these. I think 42 Terrazyme per person is what it ended up being. So you're going to take 2. This is the one that they are. They came in like a Ziploc baggie, this one. You're going to take 2 Terrazyme before breakfast, 2 Terrazyme before lunch, and 2 Terrazyme before dinner. So all of this will be in the email, in the graphic. But just to kind of give you a heads up, this will be starting tomorrow morning before breakfast, okay? And then lastly, you were sent package of the VMZ, XC Omega, and the Alpha Series. So the reason why yours came in a package is because it's just a different delivery system than the bottles you see in that picture. The supplements are exactly the same, but doTERRA's come out with new packaging recently that makes it really convenient for on the go. So what I've done is I've sent you enough for 1 package per day. And so what that's going to look like is, instead of taking the full package at breakfast, I would like it if you could space it out. And so the reason I'm doing that too, just so you understand from a nutritionist standpoint, is I don't want to overwhelm your body right now with taking a ton all at once. And so you're going to do 1 of the supplements from that pack before breakfast and 1 of each before dinner. So instead of 2 of each before breakfast and 2 of each before dinner of the Lifelong Vitality, you're going to take 1 of each before breakfast and 1 of each before dinner, just to kind of ease into taking them full time, because that's how I would do it with anyone that purchased them. I would always recommend starting at half a dose for a week to get your body regulated at being able to absorb. Because for me, I don't have any problem with assimilation with the supplements because I've been taking them for years. But when I first started taking them, I did notice that my urine was maybe a little bit darker in the beginning because my liver was starting to be able to absorb. Once you get really good at taking the Terrazyme, the digestive enzymes, and your liver is healthy, then your body will be able to absorb the supplements so much better. I don't know if you've ever noticed this before, if you've ever taken a supplement and you've had like really strong, like yellow, almost green colored pee, because your liver cannot absorb any of those supplements. And it's because on the back of the bottle, it says it has 5,000 or 2,000% of your daily intake. And so that's just crazy. No liver could ever absorb that much of a supplement at one time. And it's because it's provided in a synthetic form. When you buy supplements from like Target or Costco or something, GNC, they're given in that high quality and content because they're just hoping that the body will be able to absorb some of it. But with doTERRA's, because they're from their whole food form, the body is able to recognize them as food because they are food. They come in their whole food form. So the body knows what it is and then can use it as nutrition. And it happens so much quickly and just works so much better because you can actually absorb it into your body and use it as vitamin, as supplements, as trace minerals, the reason and purpose why you're taking them in the first place. So that being said, I will send out that schedule to you in that email. But what I just want you to understand about the 3 of these and why they are so important is the multivitamin plays a big role in fulfilling your nutritional needs, even if you are eating really healthy, simply because of the quality of the soil today is a little bit different than it was, well, it's a lot different than it was like 50 to 100 years ago. And so we're just not able to get what we used to get from the produce we're eating because of overpopulation, overstimulation of the soil, chemical runoff, and burn of pesticides, and the whole gamut, right? But what is so awesome about these is that they come in this 3-pack. So that XC Omega, that's the omega-3s I was talking to you about before that really help with all the systems, the heart, the liver, the lungs, the brain. All of that is still just these really healthy fatty tissues in the body that need support. And our body cannot naturally make omega-3s. It's impossible. And so we have to get them from an outside source. And the only way to really do that is to take a supplement. Unless you're eating fish all day, every day, you're not getting enough omega-3s in your diet. Most especially because our standard American diet is filled with omega-6s, which is a different type of fat that's really inflammatory and harmful on our body. So by counteracting those omega-6s, we take an omega-3, and then that helps to promote all the healthy systems in our body to work better and at their best function. And then the last one is the Alpha Series Plus. That's the antioxidant blend, and that's the one that I call the Holy Grail because it works through the mitochondria of your cells. So it's basically like a stimulant in a natural form. It's a plant-based stimulant. It's a plant-based form of energy, and it works because it sort of has this relationship that's lipid soluble with the cells in your body so that it does provide energy to the source of the cell called the mitochondria. And the Alpha Series Plus is able to do that because it's chock full of antioxidants, and antioxidants from plants and from essential oils that are so incredible. I call it like my midday pick-me-up because I feel like it just serves my body and gives me all the energy that I need to get through my day as a mom and as, you know, all of the responsibilities that we have. So I value this one so much, and I always give it like a moment of silence for all that it does for me because I love it so much. Okay, now that I've gone on and on about that, I want to kind of just take this little screen away for a sec. Hold on. And put it on the, let's see if I can find you. Woo! Okay, there you are. Can everyone see me? Perfect. Okay, so what I want to say is that was a lot of information, probably more than you were bargaining for tonight, but the good news is that it's recorded. So now you can go back, you can watch it again, you can take notes on stuff or re-listen to parts that maybe you feel weren't very clear for you. You can now go over and figure out, okay, what was she saying there? So what I want you to now kind of consider is what is your intention going into this week? We had the surveys, the intake forms that I emailed out, and 8 of the 16 returned it. So there's still quite a few of you that need to respond to the intake form because it helps me too to know how to serve this community. I want to make sure that each and every one of you get your needs met. And so the intake form just has a couple of questions about what your goals are for the week, how I can help you through that, and what other supplements you're on too. So in case I need to individualize it and say, okay, you take a little less Terrazyme than maybe Lupe is going to take, okay? So as for right now, I'm going to kind of just go with what I saw with the 8 of you, and then if more come in, of course, I can email out and text out and stuff like that. Thanks for everyone too that turned in your cell phone numbers to me so I can respond. Okay, last thing I want to say about tomorrow. I know it's hard because it's 9 a.m. for me and then 10 a.m. for Mountain, 11 Central, and noon for the East Coasters. And it's just 30 minutes. So if you could find 30 minutes in your day, every day for the next 7 days, then we will get a chance to really connect more, and you can ask more questions as we're going, maybe about the recipes or about the supplements. There will be things that you see in your body that will start to change. And maybe that's a question that you have right now you've been waiting for me to answer for you, is if I start taking these supplements now, will I start to feel different? And the answer is yes. After 7 days, you will definitely see changes in your body. You'll have better digestion, better bowel movements. Hopefully you'll have better sleep and better energy by the end of the week too. So I'm gonna kind of leave it at that, but I'd love to open it up and unmute the few of you that stuck around and see if there are any questions right now that I can answer for you in the recording. Yes, Lupe, I got your intake.
Awesome.
Yes, I did. Thank you for turning it in. I appreciate that.
I don't really have any significant questions at the moment, but I'm sure throughout the week
Yeah.
We'll be checking in with each other. So
yeah, totally. For sure. And so much of this is going to feel foreign to you and overwhelming. The last thing I would want is for someone to just feel like inadequate, like they can't make it through. This is too hard. I can't figure it out. Life is too difficult. I want you to incorporate this as much or as little as you can into your life, and just know that there is zero judgment and that we all can show up in the best way we can. So I welcome, as much participation as you are willing to put in. I will walk or run alongside you as fast or as slow as you need me to. And I'm just excited to kind of get this started. I really needed a little kick in the pants myself lately, so this is the perfect time to do this with you. And I will go ahead and upload this recording, send it out in an email in just a little bit, along with some other really important stuff that I think would be fun for you to have and to see. Otherwise, my hope and prayer is that tonight you can get at least 7 hours of sleep, wake up with some intentions in the morning, decide for yourself how you want this week to look, really set the stage and figure out, what is my goal? What is my plan? How am I going to show up for myself for the next 7 days? Take that quiet time to yourself, and then I'll see you at 9 a.m. Pacific tomorrow. Thanks, guys. Do you have anything to say?
No, thank you so much. And thank you everyone for showing up and investing your time and your money and your efforts into doing this. I can't wait to see everyone's results, I guess we could call them, but results and
experiences.
To see how everyone's feeling. I'm really, really excited. And Lena leads a beautiful program. I'm so grateful.
Thanks, guys. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye.
Bye.